What's happening everyone, TomGorian here and welcome back to episode 3 of the F1 23 Haas to Glory Driver Career Mode series. Today we're getting ready for round 3 of the 2023 Formula 1 season. It's the Australian Grand Prix at Melbourne, a circuit that I actually quite like now because of the changes that they made last year. Check out the previous video and also the playlist, and make sure to like the video and subscribe for more F1 23 content now that the game is launched. Just a quick update. Thank you for 600 subscribers. Turns out the first video had a lot of views and the support has been mental, and even with the second episode there's been some pretty much some downscaling, but even then it still retains some of its viewers. So if you're new and you've subscribed, then thank you. Make sure to like the video and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss an upload. So pretty much we're coming from the last video where we literally scored our first point in Formula 1 at Saudi Arabia, and now we enter this Melbourne, Australia track that's pretty much all about straight line speed now and high downforce. And for this type of circuit, it's a very tricky circuit to try and get the setup right. As you can see, we've got a mix of upgrades coming in April. We've got 2 chassis, we got one powertrain, 2 aerodynamics, and 2 chassis minor upgrades coming in the next month. So that should mean our car is, clearly quicker as we do these videos of F1 23 Haas to Glory. As far as the expectation for these first episodes and stuff, I'd say the first 5 or 10 episodes. What matters to me is that we get a genuine understanding of this car, and I think the one thing that we do need to upgrade is really the chassis. Speaking of upgrades, we've literally unlocked some of the helmet designs in this year's game, and as you can see, that is the helmet I'm going to be running. I think for the next episode I'm going to change the white to black. I think the black colour does look better with the helmet than the white, but pretty much everything else is still the same. We've got a couple of upgrades to go for Australia, but we're not going to show qualifying because, to be honest, qualifying was a complete disaster. We're starting last. That's all you need to know. But from last, we can go anywhere. Let's get to the race.
We're starting last. That's all you need to know. From last, we can go anywhere. Let's get to the race. We're starting last. That's all you need to know. But from last, we can go anywhere.
Today puts him in pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who will start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Hamilton, Leclerc, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Ocon, Bottas, Magnussen, Gasly, Joe, Oscar Piastri, Albon, Tsunoda, Sargent, De Vries, Thomas, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And it is great to be joined once again in the commentary box by Natalie Pinkham. Nat, how has the sport changed in your time working in it? Why don't we start by talking about Carlos Sainz?
What a quality performance. The big question, though, is how does that translate on race day? Can they hold on to that lead? And, of course, it's looking very close here today. A lot is going to be riding on those first few corners. And then the question becomes, who can manage their tyres so they're in a good position to push hard towards the end?
Alright, so starting last can mean either two things. It can mean you can have the most boring race of all time, or you can have the most epic race of all time with a lot of battles and a lot of epic overtakes, and you might score points based off a safety car or something. Chances are it's probably going to be option 1, knowing our pace. Our pace around here isn't really that good, even though the car felt decent in practice. It was intermediate conditions in qualifying, and I mean, the qualifying session was absolutely horrific. Everything that could go wrong in the session did go wrong, as far as just making mistakes, the game crashing, force feedback issues. I mean, I know some of you guys might have the same wheel as me. I have a Logitech G923, and if you do, you'll understand that the force feedback doesn't properly work on this game, as far as it either cuts out or it doesn't feel right in a way. So hopefully there should be a patch sometime in the next week where literally Logitech, the wheel force feedback gets fixed. So let's talk about the strategy. Now, for some reason, I'm still at the stage where I don't really understand what the meta strategy is on this year's game. I keep thinking it's kind of like last year's with, you know, medium to hard or hard to medium, but I think it's softer this year. But I'm looking at the tire graphic, and it doesn't look like a softer strategy in this game. It looks like, well, on the meta, well, on the graph, as you can see. I'm just trying to figure out between what's the best strategy between a 2-stop and a 1-stop, and as you can see, I'm debating on a 2-stop, but then I'm going back to a 1-stop, and I'm trying to change from, you know, hards to mediums. I'm trying to do 2 medium stints and then 2 soft stints, and I'm trying to go from hards to softs and then from mediums to softs, and it's just a complete mess. But in the end, I decided to go with the medium to the hards, yes, the whites, the hards to medium strategy, pretty much the F122 strategy. I don't think this strategy works as effectively as it did on last year's game, to be honest, simply because of the tire heating process in last year's game being so effective and being so important, to the point where literally you watch some of my first F122 career mode videos, like I would lose 2-3 seconds because I was, you know, I did mediums to hards. Just messing with the setup, and I'm starting to slowly but surely understand this setup as far as, you know, the wings and the brake bias and also the ride height as well. But if you want me to do some type of, you know, setup, you know, setting video or explanation video, I mean, I'm no expert in setups. I'm just I you know, I research them. You know, I don't really know them, but if you want me to try and explain the setups, let me know in the comments below, and talk to me. What is your favourite track on F123? Mine will have to be Qatar, because simply just the track itself is absolutely phenomenal to drive, and I cannot wait to drive on that track when we get to that stage of the career mode. But we're getting ready for the beginning of episode 3. It's the third race of the 2023 Formula 1 World Championship. The real life race was chaotic and I missed it because of work, so hopefully we can try and replicate that in today's video. We're starting from pretty much P19. Lance Stroll has had a stinker of a season so far. He's starting P20, and hopefully we can try and somehow score points here in Austria for 5 red lights. A quick launch and away we go for the Australian Grand Prix. Nick de Vries has had a good start. Sargent has an absolute nightmare as we go in towards turn 1, 3 wide between myself, Sargent and Lance Stroll. Try and go in down the inside of Lance Stroll in towards turn 1. We try and cut the corner just there, and we have to avoid the curb. Lance Stroll is literally behind us now as we enter literally turn 3, and as you can see on the inside, the gap is there, so we're going to dive bomb around about 4 or 5 cars, including Nick de Vries. We make a little bit of contact with his side pod on the right side, but we make the overtake work, and we're in P15, believe it or not, as we begin this race. And I can't lie, that first lap I was pretty much all over the place as far as just gripping and stuff, and for some reason, like in practice, the car felt really good on the hard tyres, but on the first lap it just felt awful, and I don't really understand like why that is. I mean, I understand that, you know, it's not, you know, optimal, you know, prime, you know, track conditions and stuff, because it's pretty much like clouds and it's the beginning of a race and heavy fuel and whatnot, but, you know, I thought it might have still been, you know, decent. But I mean, this is the highest I'm going to go in this race, and the battles you're going to be seeing is literally the scrap positions, and that's why this video is being titled Fighting for Scraps, because literally that's all we're doing. We're fighting for the scraps of literally P15 downwards, and there's really nothing to gain other than, you know, ego and just pride in a way. But as you can see, Yuki Tsunoda goes down the inside, and as you can see also, Pierre Gasly, also in the Alpine, is having a run at us. But I'd say our strongest point of this car is definitely our engine, as we dive down the inside of Yuki Tsunoda and we absolutely make a complete and utter arse of ourselves, and we lose both positions to Gasly, Tsunoda, and we nearly lose a position to Lance Stroll before he literally turns on us because he's a knobhead. But yeah, I was quite over careless for that overtake, and I didn't really mean to try and go for it that hard, but yeah, I literally went wide, so I learned my lesson, and well, say that, and I literally still got wide there. But as you can see, Gasly and Tsunoda are fighting, and Lance Stroll is waiting behind us as we go around the outside of Yuki Tsunoda in turn 5. That's an impressive overtake, and I think later on in the lap we might get Pierre Gasly as well, and we somewhat do as we enter the end of lap 9 onto lap 10. And yeah, the AI, and I think the F122 strategy of hards to mediums, they do not work in this year's game, just simply because of how, you know, useless the hards are at the beginning of the stint. I lost so much time compared to, you know, Piastri, Guanyu Zhou, Bottas, even my teammate as well. He was literally gapping me to the point where literally when I stopped, it was literally, I was 9 seconds down. But speaking of 9 seconds down, here's Carlos Sainz there, who's trying to block us the same way he blocked Pierre Gasly in qualifying yesterday. He can't make the moves work, but as you can see, once again I go a little bit wide because just the handling of this car is not where it needs to be as far as like the chassis and the weight balance and just the weight redistribution. This car does need work, and you know, that's the pain of, you know, doing these early races, these first 3, 4, 5, 6 races. That's, you know, the hurt and the pain that you suffer with it. The car is not really up to speed yet, and you don't really understand the setups as well, so you can't really tweak it to make the car feel better than it should do. But yeah, we need to work on the chassis, we need to work on just the grip in those speed corners, because literally on the penultimate corner there was multiple times where I was just understeering, and I had to go literally like 50 mile an hour or 50 kph to just, you know, make the freaking corner. So the chassis needs work, the aerodynamics also need work. Just the only thing that doesn't need work is really the engine. And as you can see, coming in for my pit stop, perfect release, but yeah, the button is mapped for the replay, so I need to change that. Optimal stop time 2.4 seconds. Can we get that? We get 2.3, so 1/10 quicker than the estimated stop time. Not that bad. But this car does remind me of somewhat of the F1 2019 Williams that I did, where literally we had an okay chassis, but we just had no aerodynamics whatsoever, and it was a battle to try and get, you know, through that first season, because that car only had, you know, engine power and a decent chassis at best. This doesn't have a decent chassis, and speaking of chassis, there goes George Russell. He's retired with an engine failure and he has emotional damage, and that's the second time in today that he's retired because of the recording of this video. He is also retired from the real life Canadian Grand Prix as well. Lap 20 out of 29, literally 9 laps to go, and I'm on the mediums, and this stint I actually felt really comfortable, and I do believe that the meta on this year's game is definitely going to be mediums to hards on this year's game. I think I've only tried it like once on this game, I'm not really sure, and I don't really would like to use it because of just how, you know, how much time you can use when you're trying to warm up the hards when you come out the box. But as you can see, we're in P16 and we overtake Pierre Gasly down the inside of turn 3, and we're now just shadowing both Lance Stroll and also Yuki Tsunoda. Points are not possible anymore, and as you can see, look at the gap between us and Kevin Magnussen as we go down the inside of Yuki Tsunoda. That was very rogue, but we managed to get the move and we made it work. So now we're all over the back of Lance Stroll, lap 25, and I'm just trying to battle for pride now. I've got nothing left. I mean, points are now gone. Guanyu Zhou is literally 5.5 seconds ahead, and I don't think I'm going to shake off Lance Stroll anytime soon in arguably the second best car. But we're going to go around the outside of the redesigned, I think that's turn 12, I'm not really sure, but we absolutely mug off Lance Stroll, and there it is, we've overtaken Lance Stroll, and that was it, that was the race. Sergio Perez wins the Australian Grand Prix in this career mode universe, and we actually was able to catch up to the cars behind. So I think if we had an extra, 5 full laps, we could have maybe tried to challenge the McLarens, and even if we got lucky with an extra DNF, we could have maybe scored a point or two. But at the end of the day, fighting for scraps, and we end up in P14. Not a bad race, but it could have been better.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Ferme.
So as they climb out of the car, the Red Bull team are ready and waiting to celebrate a thoroughly deserved win. Natalie, fill us in. What was it that helped the team achieve their success today?
I really feel the track layout, combined with the track temperatures we saw today, suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
So just like in real life, it's a Red Bull 1-2, but this time it's Sergio Perez actually leading home Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc in third position. Yeah, I mean, what is it to say about this race? Obviously, when you're doing these types of races in the first season of any career mode on any F1 game, you're going to have races like this where not really much is going on, and you're just fighting for scraps, and you're fighting for literally crumbs and all that stuff. You're not really fighting for pretty much anything other than just positions, and even then it's just like, well, I'm just wasting my time. But yeah, I got a good understanding as far as the car, and that's what these first 3, 4, 5 races are all about. You know, trying to understand the car, you know, the strengths of the car, the weaknesses. There's the Drivers' Championship. Verstappen leads by 8 points, followed by Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton. Kevin Magnussen actually scored 4 points. So now both Haas drivers are now in the points. We are now 8th in the Constructors, 1 point behind Alpine. Carlos Sainz in 6th, Alonso 7th, Lance Stroll in 8th. And then obviously Norris, Bottas, Ocon, and then Magnussen, and I'm all the way down in P15 with only 1 point. Hopefully we can change that for the next race. I think it is the the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, but just looking at my times, and compared to the rest of the drivers, I was literally quicker, and I think I was like the 7th quickest or 8th quickest in the race. So there is potential in this car. All we have to do is just keep on working with the chassis and just slightly get aerodynamics and some durability, and we are sound. It's not that bad, and I think as long as we're realistic, we should score a lot of points. But that's that for episode 3 of the F1 23 Haas to Glory Drive career mode. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more F1 23 gaming content, ring the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. In a bit.